Well, in the last class, we have seen the path, cycle, these kind of concepts. Actually, path means we are supposed to visit the nodes in between the source and destination. While visiting, we should not visit the already visited vertex again. This is what the path is. Cycle is nothing but we can visit the same path, same vertex again. That means you are going to start with one vertex and again you should come back to the same vertex. Okay, so this is what called cycle is. And here a walk. Walk and circuit, these are the two more terms that we come across. Walk means a walk is a sequence of vertices and edges of a graph. That is, if we traverse a graph, then we get a walk. So what kind of traversals we can make? BFS and DFS, depth first search and breadth first search. So these two are the traversal techniques that we can make. So vertex can be repeated, edge can be repeated. So this is what called walk means. While coming to the circuit, circuit is traversing a graph such that not an edge is repeated, but vertex can be repeated and it is closed. So vertex can be repeated and edge should not be repeated. And here the circuit in the neighboring graph can be represented as 1 to 2 and 2 to 4, 4 to 3, sorry, 4 to 3, 3 to 8 and 8 to 3 and 3 to 1. So this is what the circuit is. And one thing you remember, these graph algorithms are also popularly used in the circuit analysis. Okay. And also the next topic that we study is the theory of computation, and that is formal language and automata theory. The basics of formal languages and how automation will solve that, will use these particular formal languages. These concepts we'll see. These are also kind of graphs only. And also they are also popularly used in the circuit design. Okay. Next one is Euler's path and circuits. A connected graph G is called an Euler's graph if there is a closed trail which includes every edge of the graph G. An Euler's graph is a path that uses every edge of a graph exactly once. So that means all the vertices in the graph should be traversed so that every edge of a graph has to be visited exactly once. An Euler path starts and ends at different vertices. An Euler circuit is a circuit that uses every edge of a graph exactly once. And an Euler circuit always starts and ends at the same vertex. The same thing was repeated here. The connected graph G is an Euler's graph if and only if. This is the definition actually. A connected graph G is the Euler's graph if and only if all vertices of G are of even degree, and connected graph G is Eulerian if and only if its edge set can be decomposed into cycles. Here is an example. So the above graph is an Euler's graph, and this graph can be decomposed as cycles like A, B, C, F is one kind of cycle, and D, C, E is another kind of cycle. Okay, so it can be composed of cycles. The above graph is an Euler graph, and it will be like this: A to B, and B to C, and C to D, D to E, and E to C, and C to F, again F to A. So it covers all the edges of the graph. So you start from one vertex and move without raising your hand. Okay, visit all the vertices and come back to that vertex. Then we can say such kind of graphs are said to be Euler's graphs or Euler path. The path that you traverse is the Euler's path. G3 is also even degree. B is having 3, right? A is 3 and E is having 2. The graph G1 is Euler circuit. Okay, it is just like your phone lock pattern. Okay. Just go through the dots over there on that and try to mix it. The graph G1 has an Euler circuit A, E, C, A, E, C, D, E, again B, and again A. Neither of the graphs G2 or G3 has an Euler circuit. However, G3 has Euler path. It may not be Euler circuit, but it has a Euler path. Okay, without raising your hand, okay, you can go through the things. That is A, C, D, E, B, D, A, B. Okay, so this is the Euler path. Next one is Hamilton paths and circuits. I hope by this time you come to know what is meant by Euler's graph and Euler's path. Now we'll move on to the Hamilton paths and circuits. A simple path in a graph G that passes through every vertex exactly once. In the Euler's, okay, we can again pass back to the already visited vertex, but here it's a simple path in a graph G that passes through every vertex exactly once is called Hamilton path. And a simple circuit in a graph G that passes through every vertex exactly once is called Hamilton circuit. So here a mathematical representation of the Hamilton circuit has been provided. However, by having the understanding of the first point, let us move on to the graphs here. So which of these, among these three graphs, which is the Hamilton circuit and Hamilton, what are the Hamilton path corresponding to the graphs? So the second one, will the second one be the Hamilton? Again, let us go through the definition again. A simple path in a graph G that passes through every vertex exactly once, okay, is called Hamilton path. And a simple circuit in the graph G that passes through every vertex exactly once is called Hamilton circuit. Okay. So now, if you start from D, okay, can you visit all vertices in graph G, G1? D to E, E to A to B, B to C, and C to D. While coming to G2 and G3, so G1 has a Hamilton circuit A, B, C, D, E, A. So I already told you in the last lecture that it depends upon the what is the starting vertex that you consider. I have considered D and I traversed to the D, E, A, B, C, and D. And here they started with A. So that's also okay. A, B, C, D, E, A. There is no Hamilton circuit in G2, but G2 does not have Hamilton path because namely A, B, C, D. Okay, A, B, C, D only. Because already B has to be already visited. Okay, you cannot come back to B again. G3 has neither a Hamilton circuit nor Hamilton path. Okay, it's just like a railway track it is. So this is what the Hamilton path and Euler's path. And among these two, which is having Hamilton path and Hamilton circuit? If you start from E, E, D, A, B, C, D, again you are visiting D. We are coming to the H, graph H. So G is having Hamilton path. Okay, right. G is having Hamilton path. H don't have. Now planar versus non-planar graphs. Planar graph, A graph G is called a planar graph if it can be drawn in a plane without any edges crossed. So one edge upon one, okay, there should not be any crisscross kind of thing. If we draw graph in a plane without edge crossing, it is called embedding the graph in the plane. It's a two-dimensional plane. And remember, we always imagine everything in the form of maximum three-dimensional. Okay, multi-dimensional imagination is somewhat can be done, but this cannot be actually. It can be visualized via the computer vision or any kind of thing, this kind of technology. But in general, whatever you read and everything is in the two-dimensional. Okay. So whenever you can fit the graph in the two-dimensional plane, so if you won't observe any crisscross kind of thing, then it is a planar graph. Non-planar graph, a graph is non-planar if it cannot be drawn in a plane without graph edges crossing. So here is an example. Now, in which what are the planar graphs? The first figure is a planar graph. Obviously, there is no crossing is there. First one is crossing is there. First diagram. So the graph K4. Okay. Now the one diagonal edge, whatever is there in this diagonal of this graph, it was taken out. Okay, it was taken out. This one may be taken out, and it was drawn like that. So no crisscrossing was observed. Okay. So thereby, what will happen? It will become planar. Figure 3 will become planar because there is no crisscross of edges. And figure 4 is looking like a cube. Okay. Then you go for the top projection. This is the parallel projection. Okay. And if you go to the top, the upside down or top position, then it will be looking like the planar representation of Q3 may be looking like this. Here you won't find any crisscross. Thanks. Anyhow, if you look at the figure 2 and figure 3, both are equal. Okay, both are equal. But only thing is you have simply modified it. The number of vertices are equal. Number of edges are also equal. There is no change in that. So such kind of graphs are said to be the isomorphic graphs. You can say that two graphs G1 and G2 are said to be isomorphic if there is no much structural change, like the G1 and G2 both will be having the same number of vertices and same number of edges, but the representation may be different. Okay, so that is the reason always you don't assume that the graph will be represented only like this and like this. Okay, even in the data structures trees point of view also, for our understanding purpose, the tree has been drawn like that for easy imagination and calculation purpose. But actually, it is not the exact structure in the memory. Okay. Now, non-planar graphs. These are the examples of non-planar graphs. Isomorphic graphs. Just now, as I told you, the two graphs G1 and G2 are said to be isomorphic if the number of components are same, their edge connectivity is retained. In other words, the two graphs differ only by names of the edges and vertices, but structurally equivalent. So here is an example. G1 and G2 are said to be isomorphic. The reason is the G1 and G2 are having the same number of edges and same structure, structurally equivalent. But G3 is different. Okay. In the graph G3, the vertex W has only degree 3, whereas all other graph vertices have degree 2. So hence G3 is not isomorphic to the G1 and G2, but G1 and G2 are isomorphic. That means with this only you can assume that graph means there is no fixed way of drawing the graph. You can draw the graph in any way. Okay. This isomorphism can be checked with respect to the undirected graphs. If weight is there, then automatically it will be different. Even though the structure is same, but the edge weights will be different. So thereby they may not be equal. Okay. In case of undirected graphs, if you represent the graph like this, and structurally they are not different, then this is to be isomorphic. Graph coloring, it is a very, very, very important topic, especially whenever you study in the analysis of algorithms. It's a kind of NP complete problem. Okay. NP complete problem is where you have supposed to choose many combinations. Okay, you are supposed to choose many combinations. Graph coloring problem is like this. Graph coloring is the procedure of assignment of colors to each vertex. Please listen carefully. This is very important for especially in the analysis of algorithms. Graph coloring is the procedure of assignment of colors to each vertex of the graph G such that no adjacent vertices get same color. So no adjacent vertices should get same color. The objective is to minimize the number of colors while coloring the graph. Don't use as many colors as possible. Obviously, if you use many number of colors, automatically it is very easy problem to solve. But the problem is minimization problem. It is an optimization problem, we can say. It's an optimization problem that the objective function is to color the graph with minimum number of colors. The smallest number of colors required to color a graph G is called chromatic number of that graph. Graph coloring problem is a NP complete problem. Okay. Always, whenever you use any optimization algorithm, you have to show that this optimization algorithm is looking like an NP complete problem. For that, usually people what they do is they will imitate their problem statement as like graph coloring problem. Okay, as like graph coloring problem or traveling salesperson's problem. Here, traveling salesperson also like that only. He has to visit all the cities with minimum distance. Here also minimization problem only. Maximization problem means 1 by minimization, simple. Okay, these are the optimization techniques that you are supposed to remember when you use the optimization techniques. In future, you may come across the multi-objective optimization techniques, especially in case of mathematics, you may come across, or with respect to the computer science also, we use these optimization techniques, like minimizing the utilization of the CPUs, okay, minimizing the utilization of the memory. Okay. So as CPU cycles increases, more energy is required. If it is a battery operated device, if more cycles are spent, then battery will be drained fast. So whenever you are designing the algorithms to the battery operated devices, where it also consisting of some microcontroller, or usually microcontrollers will be there. Microprocessors require more energy. Microcontrollers will be there. So how you can optimize these kind of things? So these are all the optimization problems, maximization and minimization problems. So if you have been given minimization and asked to go for maximization, you should go for 1 by minimization, it will get the maximization. So method to color a graph. The steps required to color a graph G with n number of vertices are as follows. Step 1, arrange the vertices of the graph in some order, either ascending order or descending order, some order you assign. you know there are 8 vertices in the graph. So arrange these vertices in the ascending order or descending order. This for the programming purpose. Anyhow, whenever a graph has been given, you draw the adjacency matrix. So adjacency matrix is there, and keep your vertices in one array. Now choose the first vertex and color it with the first color. Take a enumeration. I'm telling you with respect to C programming, because C programming is a very convenient programming to understand. Okay, because this programming will vary from language to language. Okay, so take the enumeration and some colors. Okay, green, blue, red, etc. Choose the first vertex and color it with the first color. Choose the next vertex and color it with the lowest numbered color that has not been colored on any vertices. So how you can say that it has not been covered? You take the adjacency matrix and go through the rows. So row will give you out degree. So whenever you go to the row, and if there exists 1 in the row, automatically the corresponding column value is the vertex which is connected. Okay, and check in the color assignment array that whether the same color is available or not. If it is not available, then assign with some other low number color. Okay, like that you need to traverse every vertex and take the reference of the adjacency matrix and assign the color. So here the number of vertices are very small, like maybe 10, 12 like that. But if you take a large graph, especially like social network graph, now you want to assign the colors of the countries, for the countries from where the this particular nodes have produced. Okay, a simple tweet analysis from across the world. Okay, now you want to point the colors, or you want to project the colors for the too much hate, too much normal hate. See, this is the fuzziness. Minimum hate, okay, medium hate, maximum hate, okay, top hate. So this kind of things, if you want to mention like this. So this will become interesting. Okay, this kind of problems will become so much interesting. So whenever you have the large number of vertices, then the problem is a complex problem. Now for 5, 6 vertices or maybe 10 vertices, it can be done easily. So for this, you are recommended to write a program, simple program. For this, it can be done with 5, 6 vertices. You can easily do it. It's not a problem. So here is an example, graph coloring. Vertex A, B, C, D, E, F, and here the colors chosen are 2 colors we have chosen. So A was colored with C1 and B is colored with C2. So C1 and C2 adjacent vertices having different colors. Now, so A is assigned with C1 and B is assigned with C2. And now B and C should not have the same color. Can you use the color of A on C? Obviously you can do it, because our objective is to minimize the number of colors. Right? So anyhow, the C is having the color of A. Now D can be having the color of B. Since D is having the color C2, so E can be having the color of C1. Like that, you usually assign this. The minimum number of colors required to color the given graph are 2. So what is the chromatic number? Is 2. So this is another graph in which you'll be having the colors like this. So A is colored with C1, B is colored with C2, and C is also colored with C2 because A is having the connection with B and C, and now D is colored with C3. The reason is, whenever you color A with C1 and B with C2, okay, and D is, so you have to color with either C1 or C2 here, and here also either C1 or C2. So then there is a problem of going for matching the adjacent vertices. So thereby you go for the assigning of C3 to D, and E is assigned with the C3 and F is assigned with C1. So here the chromatic number is 3. This is the minimum number of colors required. Now it's a simple design like a mesh design. Minimum number of colors required to color this given graph are 3. So the chromatic number is 3. So it is just like combinations, permutation. Okay, take the color and assign. Okay. For every vertex, you are supposed to do this, and you are supposed to maintain a visited array and assigned color array, so that you are supposed to keep track of checking whether the color has been assigned or not. This is another example. Here, what is the chromatic number? Is 3. Sorry, 4. So orange, green, red, and orange, green, and red only. 4. G is colored with some different color. F is with C3. Some color difference is there. It's looking like same color. No? Maybe projector problem. And here is another graph. So one thing you do is you write a simple C program. You take this graph and insert, okay, as an adjacency matrix and test it. Next is bridges in a graph. So this is what graph coloring. So theoretically we discussed the graph coloring, but there are so many topics under the graph coloring. Anyhow, this was not included in the course. So I think by this time you got idea of what is Euler's graph and Euler's circuit and Euler's path, Hamilton circuit and Hamilton path, and graph coloring. Then we'll move on to the bridges in a graph. Anyhow, in the last lecture itself, I have given a clue, which is called articulation point. So once you remove the articulation point, the network will be divided into 2 or more subgraphs. So bridges in a graph is nothing but an edge in an undirected connected graph is a bridge if and only if removing it disconnects the graph. For a disconnected undirected graph, definition is similar. A bridge is an edge removing which increases the number of disconnected components. And here we have in the first graph, 0, 3 is a bridge, as well as 3 and 4 is also a bridge. In the second graph, 1, 6, the edge between 1, 6 is a bridge. Now what is the difference between this bridge and articulation point? Articulation point, we are focusing on the vertex. In the bridge, we are focusing on the edge. Now, this is another graph, 0, 1, 2, 3, in which the bridges are 0, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 3. Articulation point are cut vertices in a graph. A vertex in an undirected connected graph is an articulation point if and only if removing it disconnects the graph. Articulation point represents vulnerabilities in a connected network. Single points whose failure would split the network into 2 or more disconnected components. For a disconnected undirected graph, an articulation point is a vertex removing which increases the number of connected components. Anyhow, we have had some discussion of this articulation point. So here in this first diagram, 0 is an articulation point, 3 is an articulation point. So here the 2 articulation points are there. And in the second diagram, 1 and 2 are the articulation points. And in case of third diagram, the 1 is the articulation point. So how can you program this articulation point? So you identify you take a vertex and assign the row corresponding of the vertex as 0, all vertices, for the all vertices in the adjacency matrix. So now you start traversing the array. So you start traversing the graph. Okay, if you won't find all the vertices while traversing, then the vertex that you have made, the corresponding row that you have made as zeros is an articulation point. Okay, so that means you convert the adjacency matrix corresponding row for a vertex as 0. So that means you don't have any path. That means you are removing the incident edges. Now you perform the traversal. Either you go for the BFS or DFS. Now you check it whether all vertices except that removed articulation vertex has been appeared in the final set or not. If you won't find it, automatically that is a articulation point. So in that way also, you can write a program for that.